You know, the 90s was a very interesting time period. Had many things in there that made you just go, yay, and other times made you go, what? Yeah. Among those things that and don't get me wrong, the 90s were awesome. The 90s had a lot of cool stuff that we remember fondly. And one of those things for me was Goosebumps, you know. But what you didn't know is that George Lucas was trying to cash in on the Goosebumps love in his own Star Wars universe. And this, when you think about it, kind of sparked Death Troopers, the zombie stormtrooper story I talked about in the previous vid. This story is about... Well, I'm actually going to do a brief review on Star Wars Galaxy of Fear. Now, if you don't know what Star Wars Galaxy of Fear is, Galaxy of Fear has a very interesting story behind it. Well, of its creation, anyway. In a nutshell, it was kind of meant to be a spoof of the Goosebumps series, pretty much, which that was so big. There were some other places that had spoofed or, you know, tried to cash in on the Goosebumps craze from R.L. Stine. However, I think the biggest one out of this was Galaxy of Fear, but having said that, though, it didn't get far. But 12 books is still pretty far. I mean, these weren't big books either, and they were more for reading ages at the same age. If you were reading Goosebumps, you probably had this as well. Galaxy of Fear was the first time Star Wars really delved into a horror genre. And keep in mind, this was, when I say horror genre, I do mean in the sense that it's for younger audiences. And don't get me wrong, Goosebumps had some legitimate scary moments when you were a kid. I mean, looking back on it now, you're like, yeah, not scary. I mean, not as scary, but if you were a little kid, you'd be shitting your pants right now. Kind of scary. But Galaxy of Fear is very interesting because, again, it's the first foray into Star Wars doing horror stuff. And, interestingly enough, it actually, it does sound very familiar to another series out there. Okay, the story, and don't get me wrong, the story is pretty interesting, so without further ado, let's actually get into the story. The story is about two characters named Tasha and Zack, who are two preteen twins who are survivors of their parents were killed when Alderaan was destroyed. Yeah, so kind of dark intro that this is the first time they ever did something with Alderaan outside of you know, anything with Leia. So with these were Alderaanians, I guess you could call them that, who were more or less orphans as children who were under the supervision of a droid named, I think the droid's name was DV7, I believe. And they traveled around the galaxy with their mysterious Uncle Hool. Does this not sound familiar, people? Two preteen twins, one very serious, the other very yeah, the personalities were, the boy was pretty serious and didn't take stuff lightly, while the sister was very happy-go-lucky and very interested in the Force. And they lived with and they traveled with an uncle who had a lot of secrets behind him. Guys, it's Gravity Falls in the Star Wars universe. Yeah, it is pretty much Gravity Falls in space, guys. That's what it was. And it's awesome. Yeah, so yeah, this was not a... It's not, you know, obviously this wasn't like a big series, but the whole story was, like I said, 12 books in total. The first 6, however, focused around a plot, an ongoing plot in the first 6 stories of Zack and it's something with a T. I think her name is Tasha, but yeah, I'm forgetting her name. I'm forgetting her real name, but Zack and his sister trying to stop the Empire from creating this weapon called oh yeah, Tash. That's her name, Tash. I had to look it up. Sorry, because But yeah, Zack and Tash and their uncle had to stop this weapon, just simply known as the Weapon. Ooh, and before anyone asks, no, it's not Death Star, because this storyline takes place in between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. All the books do. Actually, I think the last 2 books took place in between Empire and Jedi, now that I think about it. But it was definitely during original trilogy era, obviously with Alderaan being destroyed and all that. But yeah, the first 6 were just them trying to stop the Empire from unleashing the weapon, which was supposed to be like a biological weapon, and yeah. And it was a prototype organism, too, if I recall. But after that, the last 6 books, from then on to, I mean, from one book, from the 7th book called the Brain Spiders, all the way to the Hunger, those stories were more or less separate stories of just the exact same plot going over again. Zack and Tash and their uncle go to a planet to hide from the Empire because they just destroyed this weapon. And they're also running from Boba Fett, that too, and a Hutt named Shada the Hutt, who, by the way, when I first read that, I was like, so they're running from an incomplete story in Doctor Who? But yeah, Shada and Fett are chasing them all over the galaxy. You get brief cameos of like Luke and Leia and Vader and everyone and all the good stuff like that. But it mostly focused on... The only real character that got any spotlight from the original trilogy was Fett, because Fett was hired to hunt down and kill Zack and Tash and their uncle to because the Empire was pretty pissed that they lost the weapon. So, yeah, but the last 6 books were more or less, just the whole story of, oh, we've stumbled into this mystery. Now we have to fight this such and such monster. It's innocent enough if you can find it. It's innocent enough, and it only ran for about, I think, a year and a half, now that I think about it. It ran from 1997 to 1998, I want to say. And it's not a... It's innocent enough. It's, like I said earlier, it's the first foray, Star Wars' first foray into horror, and we didn't really get that until until 2009 in a more adult situation with John Schreiber's Death Troopers. So, and then he did it again in Red Harvest, which is the prequel to Death Troopers. And again, go check those out if you haven't read those yet. I should do a review on Death Troopers and Red Harvest in the future. I've read it, but I need to read it again. It's been so long since I've read those. Anyway, once again, it's an innocent enough book series. It's fun. If you like Goosebumps kind of storytelling, I'd say check it out. And again, it's Gravity Falls in space. What more could you want? That's pretty much what it was. So anyway, once again, hope you all enjoyed this little review, and I will see you guys later.